Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AMPM podcast. My name is Manny Coates, and I will be your host, and this is the show where we discuss all things Amazon private label and how to generate recurring revenue streams 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, hence the name of the show. Get it? AMPM Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the AMPM podcast. My name is Manny Coates, and I'm going to be your host. And today I've got something very, very special. We decided that we would bring on 4 of the biggest companies in this space, in the Amazon private label space, that do product launches, right? The companies that get your new product to page 1, hopefully into position 1, in a pretty short period of time. Now, what's been very interesting is that we've had tons and tons of people in our Facebook group, our FBA High Rollers group on Facebook, that ask questions or make statements in many cases that just aren't true, right? Somebody will say something like, hey, this type of URL structure no longer works. Then somebody else repeats that. And then before you know it, it's all over the place. And suddenly it sounds like no product launches are working. So we decided, let's go out. Let's get the top launch companies in the Amazon space, okay? Guys that have been doing this for at least a year or longer. And let's bring them on all together and ask them all the pertinent questions, all the questions that people constantly ask, right? Like URL structures to use, how to get the right keywords, the launch period that you should be using, what kind of discounts you should be giving on coupons, what's working, what's not working, and so forth. So we decided to bring on 4 companies. The first 3 are traditional launch companies, okay? We have 6leaf, we have Viral Launch, and we have ZonJump. Okay, these guys, between the 3 of them, probably account for the majority of product launches on Amazon. The other company that we brought on, we thought we wanted to bring somebody a little bit different, so we brought on Rebate Key. They're the new kids on the block, but they do things different, right? They're using rebate keys versus coupon discount codes. So we thought it'd be very cool to bring everybody together. And I just want to mention that if you know of a company, and there's a lot of launch companies out there, and you're like, man, you should have had these guys on. Again, the reason we didn't bring everybody on is we wanted to be focused, and at the same time, we wanted to bring on people that have been around for a while. So if somebody's pretty new, if they're less than a year old, we didn't invite them on. We might have those people. We might have different companies on another podcast if you guys want that, and if you guys have additional questions. So again, get ready to nerd out for 90 minutes, turn everything off, and get ready, because this is going to get good. Hello, everybody. I am honored to be joined by a bunch of people in the launch space. It's going to be super awesome. I'm here with my co-host, Bradley Sutton. How you doing, Bradley?
Doing great.
Good. And we've got, as I mentioned, 4 of the leaders in the product launching space. So why don't you go ahead and introduce who our guests are today?
All right. Well, first we've got Limin. He's a software developer and internet marketer since 2000. 7-figure Amazon seller. He's a member of the $1 Million Seller Group and also co-founder of Zon Pages, ZonJump, ZonWords, and the Rebate Key projects. Been a couple years in the launch space, over 80,000 launches, 100 to 200 launches a day. So welcome, Leo. We've got Cameron Yoder. He's a content marketing specialist and also a public speaker. He works for Viral Launch. They've been in the launch space for about 4 years, and on average, run over 1,000 launches a month. We've got Barcus Patty. He's the Chief Success Officer at 6leaf. He's been working with 6leaf for about 4 years, and they've run over 40,000 launches since 2014. And we've got Ian Sells, also the co-founder of Rebate Key and the CEO of Eco Partners, and they own and manage multiple 7-figure brands on Amazon. So we really got the giants in the industry here with us today.
We do. Thank you guys for coming. So I was going to ask you, one of the questions I was going to ask was how many launches you guys do per day. It looks like some of you have answered that. Leo, you're doing 100 to 200 launches per day. Is that right?
Yeah, well, that's average. It's hard to say because I work mostly with larger sellers. And sometimes we have a ton of launches. Sometimes we have fewer. But I average about 100 to 200 a day. Yep.
Cool. Awesome. And Cameron, how many are you doing per day?
Yeah, so on average, maybe around 1,000 or 1,200 per month. So maybe like 30 to 50 per day, and that's in the US and that's international as well.
Awesome, cool. And Barcus, where are you guys at?
It ranges between 100 to 200 a day. This is, they're seasonal products. So, but I would say 100 to 200 a day on a just average over 12 months.
All right, cool. And Ian, you guys are slightly different with the Rebate Key. Where are you guys at with your launches?
Yeah, we don't really call them launches, but we're doing about 1,000 to 2,000 claims a day on our site.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, that brings us into the podcast where we're going to be talking about all kinds of things launch related, what works, what's not working, what you guys see coming down the road. But I see people post this every day in our Facebook group, and they say things like product launches are rank manipulation, right? You guys get this all the time. They're rank manipulation, so they're violating the terms of service. So let's clarify this, okay? If this is not true, who wants to jump in and explain why?
Barcus.
Go ahead and speak. Jump in, guys. Go ahead, Barcus.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets it multiple times a week, but we look at it as it's a sale. You have a short-term discount of your product. You're presenting it to an audience of real people. As long as you follow those guidelines, you're not violating any terms of service. You're not manipulating anything because you're not misleading anybody. This is a real discounted product to a real customer in a limited amount of time. So it's just a sale, and we help distribute and promote that sale for you, as with everybody else. So that's kind of the way I position it. And there's going to be people out there on the internet that will always disagree, but that's our stance on it.
Cool.
Yeah, I would also agree with what you said. Just even adding the fact, taking all that into consideration, the fact that, I mean, we've run over like 30,000 to 40,000 launches, and no one that has run a launch has gotten in trouble with Amazon for running a launch, right? There have been a handful who have gotten in trouble, but it's also because they were running some offhand black hat time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I think people are just afraid of getting in trouble, but it just generally doesn't happen.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that one?
I would say that at Rebate Key, we feel that launching is part of a marketing platform. And so we operate as such, and we're able to distribute basically your old tried and true mail-in rebates for manufacturers to market your products to customers, but by giving them an incentive to buy it. And so we're able to do that on Amazon and on Walmart and other platforms. So we don't actually position as a traditional launch platform, but we've never heard of anybody getting in trouble for launching their product.
Okay, great. What do you guys think is different today from where we were a year ago with launches?
It's just more competition. And that's, I mean, you see the biggest niches just grow bigger and bigger. I almost cringe when somebody says, "Hey, I've got 500 units of vitamin C serum I want to give away." And I'm like, "Oh, I want to help you, but I don't, so, we try to jump on a call and help them. But every niche seems to grow every year with Amazon. I'm in a competitive niche as well with my own brand, and it's so hard to really stick in there and kind of take market share away from the top 5 or 6 people. And it's an ongoing battle. And then Amazon's changing things every day, not every day, but on a consistent basis.
Okay. So outside of more competitors, Leo, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with Barcus that it's definitely more competitive. A lot of newbie sellers just thinking that it's an easy game, but it's not. And but on top of that, there's a lot more competition from China, and they are using very dirty tactics. And I wanted to add to the launch methods that we are using, that it is one of the least concerns of Amazon right now. They have way more abuse coming from China using different methods and way more dangerous practices to Amazon platform. If they want to stop 90% off launches, they could easily just cancel their promo codes or reduce their, you can't do any more 99% off promo codes. You can do 70%. But the biggest threat to us is the methods that a lot of black hat and Chinese sellers are using. And we can touch on that a little bit later. That's why it's getting harder and harder to rank. Plus, of course, competition. We all get smarter. We all get our own methods and our own practices. And senior sellers, it's easier for us. And junior sellers, it's more difficult, more and more difficult. The game is more complicated right now.
Okay. All right. Any changes in URL structures? For the longest time, the TwoStep Storefront URL has been kind of the go-to URL to use for most services. And we're seeing some of that change, or at least some people are saying it's changed. Have you guys noticed anything? Is this a new trend? Cameron, anything on your side?
Yeah, so I mean, we're split testing URLs all the time, and that's one area specifically that we try to keep in tune with, just to make sure that we've basically been using the same URL since we started launching close to 4 years ago, and it's remained as potent as it was when it started. And so we would change that if it wasn't as potent, but we've still found it to be kind of the most effective thing, which is the two-step URL.
Everybody else on the same page?
I kind of agree with viral launch. The URL is not a problem when the launch fails, for the most part. It's other factors. Well, two-step storefront, two-step brand URL. What happens is when you go there, once you make that second click, you get your Linux timestamp, and that's as good as a regular search. The only problem with that is that you have a little bit of loss of traffic because you need to make 2 steps. So some people use direct to listing timestamp. It's a little bit more dangerous, I think, because they can track where the traffic is coming from directly to the listing. And but it also works. So I have not noticed any problem with the URLs. I have noticed problems with other things.
One quick question. At Barcus, I think your company had come out with a blog a week ago talking about two-step URLs, where you guys actually, if I remember correctly, you didn't you might not even use them in the future, or did I read that correctly, or can you tell us more about that?
So basically, we like everybody else, we were doing some testing, and I agree with Leo. I don't think it's necessarily a URL issue. We talked a lot about the QID, which is the timestamp, and some people think that's an effect on the URL, just like the sales potency. We disagree. I mean, every click on the internet's got a QID attached to it in somewhere. Basically, in our testing for the two-step, we think the same thing happened with the static and dynamic super URLs a couple of years ago. They became less and less potent because more and more people were using them. Now, that's just our theory. But so we saw the two-step, the proper storefront URL working less and less for some people. Some people it wouldn't work at all. Some people it worked great. And so that's what we found. So I think it really comes down to competition, what type of URLs are being used. And Amazon can see everything. They know the URLs. They know what we do. They know what everybody else does. They know exactly what kind of traffic we're sending to these listings. So I don't think it's a URL. I don't think it's necessarily something inside a URL structure. I think that perhaps something gets just saturated as anything else.
I'd like to say that it's important to note on Rebate Key, we don't actually suggest any URL that you use. You get to choose your own. So whatever you are hearing is working for you, you can set that up. You can also direct your traffic to your website. You can direct it to Walmart. You can direct it to Amazon. You can use a two-step, a brand URL. I mean, the list goes on. So I think that's a little different. We're not controlling the launch process for people. We're just offering a platform to distribute mail-in rebates.
Okay. And Barcus, are you guys still using, based on that article, are you still using two-step URLs in your service?
Yes. So Heatseeker, which we've had since 2014, it's kind of an automated system, but without going too deep into it, it's relatively been unchanged since 2014. So we have a preferred URL that's been working for us just as much as it has been. Cameron and Viral Launch has their own as well. We just see that the storefront seems to be a bit more saturated. Now, we could be completely wrong in the reason why the effectiveness is gone, but that's just what we've seen in split testing these URLs and looking at past.
So it's a cool name, Heatseeker. What kind of URL is that?
It's proprietary to a certain degree, but it's really, I guess the best way to describe it really automates a lot of the process of emulating organic search. We don't violate any terms of service or anything like that, because that's the next question that everybody asks us. But it seems to be the most effective versus a two-step URL.
Has anybody else seen other URLs that work? We mentioned this one that Barcus mentioned. We've talked about two-step. I've heard about brand URLs. Any other URLs that we have not?
And Leo, you're smiling, so go, you have something to say.
I just know what's a Heatseeker URL.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the space, you know what it is, you know what it does.
Yeah, they imitate almost real search, so I can say it's probably better than
because people are going to ask.
URLs.
They're going to want to know what is this? We don't want to keep things cryptic. Let's keep it open. Everybody kind of knows.
Proprietary, I cannot say it. So
if I had the privilege of saying it, I would. I just, that's kind of.
If Barcus
you got to keep something close to the chest, so.
It's the reason there's so many services to choose from. There's different ways to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And
well, I can just say that that URL that Sixleaf is using is imitating a search pretty well. So it's a good URL.
Okay. So it's basically somebody going in and typing in a search and then simulating that whole process.
Not exactly, but very close. Anyways, what we are using is, we call it superior URL. It's not proprietary, but it's very complicated. And what we do is we imitate the search. We send in the bot that actually searches for your product, and not only it updates the timestamp, it grabs the whole URL and all the little variables that are out there, it updates those in that same instant. So that's kind of imitating this. So we go deep into the pages, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Sixleaf is doing something very similar, but differently. And eventually we find your product with that particular keyword, and what URL is given by Amazon is the URL the buyers are using. Yeah, okay. We call it, it's like timestamp, but smart timestamp.
Cameron, any thoughts?
Honestly, to those, I mean, like I said before, I can only speak to what we're doing, and of course, like I said before, we're split testing a lot, but our effectiveness, our potency has remained pretty consistent just using our organic URL. And it's remained pretty consistent for the past 4 years. And if that changes, we will change the way that we do things and the way that we approach launches. But for now, we're seeing it just as effective as ever.
Okay, so if somebody posts online, 2-step storefront URLs do not work anymore, guys. They're dead. Would you guys agree that's a false statement?
Yes.
Everybody agrees? Yeah? Okay.
I don't use those. I actually never use those. So I use brand 2-step.
Which one's better out of those two, in your opinion? Actually, everybody can answer. A brand URL or 2-step storefront?
Brand is also 2-step.
But right, without the brand, though, I'm talking about. Without adding the brand, tagging it with the brand, which one would you prefer?
Brand has always worked and never stopped working, but we A/B test the superior URL and brand URL. The only difference is that 2-step brand URL, you need to make 2 clicks. And some people, especially if you send unprepared audience, some people fall out. They don't want to make that second click. But it works just the same.
Okay. Now, some of you guys have your own networks. I think some of you use paid media. I've seen posts where people are saying, oh, you know what, the Amazon's cracking down on the same people going in and using the coupon codes. That's why it's becoming less effective. Any thoughts on any of this, guys?
You got it to the point. That's the problem, and not URLs.
I disagree, but I'll let you finish. So, sorry.
Okay. Well, there's nothing to disagree
about.
No,
I respect you, but I just,
Yeah, Amazon has a score or a tag for every single seller and every single buyer. Depending on our behavior, we have different scores. And a lot of buyers with the same pattern of buying, like a lot of these Chinese papers leaked out, and some of you may have seen those. Like if you have more than a certain percentage of average review, more than like your buying behavior, you log in, buy, you log out, etc., etc. There's a variety of variables. Then that buy does not count in as a buy. That is all. That is what is happening, and it is because of China and because of their multiple fake accounts that they're using for buying. And same people or similar people are using multiple accounts to wipe out inventories of the sellers just to resell them. Basically, that resellers, hijackers, and that is the problem, the biggest problem. There's also the behavior of the seller, like how your seller account performs, like the percentage of those discounted sales. Of course, it counts. I cannot say exactly, but if you're relying too heavily on the launch services to maintain your campaigns, if you're relying on the same source for everything, it's not good. So my personal opinion, even though I represent ZonJump and Rebate Key, you have to diversify your sources. It's totally cool to launch with any of these services, but you can't rely on them indefinitely. You have to build up your own traffic and get those organic and natural sales.
All right, Barcus, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, so I agree with most of that. Amazon tracks everything. They track seller activity and behavior, and they track buyer behavior. They track, because they want regular customers. They know that there's going to be promotions everywhere you go. There's going to be discounts. There's going to be lightning deals, whatever. They know that, and they monitor that. If they see somebody that purchases 90% off, it's only 90%, or the majority of their products are 90% off. And maybe they're using multiple gift cards or maybe multiple debit cards, and then they're only leaving positive reviews. That can trigger something to Amazon to maybe stop allowing them to review, or to maybe simply just kill their account. And we've seen those stories came up, I guess, maybe like 6 months ago in Forbes or something. My professional and personal opinion, they don't affect launches. If it did, then we would see less and less products get to page one. We're all growing our lists in some sort of degree or manner. So there's always new people coming in, no people going out. But if that was the case, that the same people over and over purchasing things, we would all see a less effective promotions. That's the only thing I disagree about. Everything you talked about, those Chinese documents that leaked out, like all that stuff is true. I mean, Amazon monitors everything, but on the buyer behavior, we want to see, they're trying to get warnings to see, are these people leaving fake reviews? Are these people buying and trying to, or are they receiving fake orders? All that kind of stuff. Amazon wants an honest buying experience and an honest platform, and that's their main purpose.
I'd like to add to that, and that's
in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with what both those guys said. It's one of the main reasons why I came up with the idea of Rebate Key, was because I felt that at some point Amazon was going to say anything over a 50% discount is going to be flagged, and it will give no ranking boost. And it would be very easy for them to roll that out and say that's just really an incentivized sale. And so Rebate Key always provides full price sales on any marketplace and allows you to rebate the buyer after 35 days. That's how our software works. And by mixing Rebate Key with ZonBlast and ZonJump and Viral Launch, you probably will have a very successful launch. You got to have multiple sources these days and really have a holistic approach to launching your product if you want to be successful.
Okay, I want to come back to you about some stuff that just was released about rebates. I think probably most of you saw that this morning or this week, but we'll get to that in a second. I want to go back to you, Barclay, or actually anybody who wants to comment on this. Would you say, let's just say that you're giving a 50% discount, okay, not too high, not too low, and you're giving away 100 units as an example. Would it make any difference in your opinions whether that traffic comes through a network of buyers that you have your own network essentially, versus somebody using the same number of coupon codes on Facebook and going out organically and just grabbing random people? Do you think there'd be any difference in the final rank if all other things are equal?
I would love to test that. And somebody else can chime in. I just have my opinion, so go ahead.
Okay, finish your thought.
I would love to test the effectiveness. I haven't run that heavy Facebook ads and tried to split test that difference. Logically, it's all external traffic, and my thought process is external traffic is external traffic. Amazon loves it. That's why they push their associates program so hard, because that's their job, is to drive external traffic. The more places, the better. I can't say if that would be more effective or not. I would assume no, but I don't like to assume. So that's just my opinion on it.
Actually, we did split test, and we even didn't have to do it ourselves. In our group with Ian in MDS, there are some very large sellers, and they did split testing across the platforms. And I do not think that initial launch, like you have a brand new ASIN, is affected by the value. It can be 90% off, 50% off a full price sale, but relaunch is affected. So if you are if you have an old ASIN with old history, full price sales are more valuable. I would still go with full price sale if you can do it for the initial launch, but I have not seen any difference doing 90. Actually, the guy was doing 99% off across every single platform that is listed here. I will not comment on Viral Launch or Six Leaf, but he came very close results on Rebate Key and ZonJump. Even though Rebate Key naturally gave him a little bit more reviews because they were full price sales. So that's my opinion. It does not affect the sales velocity. Does not get affected if it is 99% off, 50% off, or full price sale. And the sales velocity is what matters at this stage. You're launching a new product. And actually, it's better to do a much deeper discount because you can get more claims. You know, that's the problem that probably every single launch service has here. Like in our platform, you can do 30% off, but you know, you can't generate such huge sales velocity on 30% off as on 99% off. So if you really want to rank, and I think Six Leaf has this one-day launch also approach. It also works very well. And if you want really a lot of items in a short period of time, do a very deep discount, right? But if you have an old stale product and you want to boost it, sometimes none of the launch services work. My theory is it's because of they already established your history, they already know your patterns, how the buyers are, your returns, refunds, and everything. And there you have to be more consistent, maybe not one day boost, not 1 week boost, but like more consistently spread it over the time to correct your listing. That's it.
Well, just switching gears a little bit, for those of you guys who don't know, before I worked at Helium 10, I would help different companies with their launches, and I handled over 400 launches in the last year, and so I still have access to a lot of my old clients, and I actually did a real deep dive, on everything that's been happening, since the beginning of August, and I noticed like a big change in what I saw, and this is about 3,000 different data points, a big change in the predictability of launches of things that always worked before, and then now it's like a little bit inconsistent. And to me, or in my data, it was around the middle of August, which is around the same time that we started seeing some strange things happening on the Amazon search results platform, where, all of a sudden, one product in one browser will be page 1, position 5, and then, somebody else in another place, or they switch to Firefox browser, it's page 7, position 170, and going up and down and up and down and indexing different things. Do you guys see any of that, in your data, that anything changed in August? And then if so, do you think it might be related to this new search things? How grids now are different. Some grids will be 16 on page 1, but some will be 48 on page 1, et cetera, et cetera.
I think a lot's changed with the launch process and how what Leo was touching on about the buyer. And everybody is being tracked. The sellers, the buyers, every data point, every launch you do, every discount sale, every friend that buys your product, it's all being tracked. And they're creating basically a quality score on everybody. And this is information that's been leaked from Amazon directly. So we know that this is pretty much fact. And so nobody knows the details of how it's actually being worked out, but it does impact the launches. And so if these people are constantly only buying on Amazon with coupon codes, that launch might not work.
What do you guys think, the rest of you?
To talk to your question about Amazon just changing things every now and then, I think we have seen things just change in terms of just grid layouts and or ranking differences between looking at an organic search in an incognito window, for example, compared to like a non-incognito. But on a macro level, we're not seeing that affect something like launches, right? So or sales necessarily. So maybe on the micro level, yeah, it's affecting some sellers here and there just because Amazon's continually testing different things out. But we're still seeing effective results come from launches on the macro level. Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys seen any big differences in your launches in the last 60 days? Are people having to give away more?
Yeah, I agree with what Ian and Marcus said. I have to add that Amazon, at the same time, they're testing several different algorithms. Maybe they take 5% of all the traffic and they just do one way, 5% another way, and they're comparing those. And they started it relatively recently. That's why people can see different results. And they also test on different browsers, of course, mobile and desktop. They are different. And of course, on personal level, they also adjust. Like if you're not in incognito, you see all the completely different results because they want to give you what you will buy. So they are implementing that, but I agree that on macro level, it's still the same. Yeah. What was the recent question?
It was just basically to see if there was any abnormalities tied to the giveaways that you guys are seeing recently, and if that's actually, if you've seen this affect you guys, because there's a lot of chatter online right now saying I just ran launches and it's not working. It used to work, and now I just gave away 600 units and I went from page 2 to page 9 when it was finished.
Yeah, right. So can a launch not work? We've seen it not work. So I don't know. Maybe you guys could talk about. We could talk about like why do some work and some don't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not on macro level. They work mostly. But there are people who struggle with launching, and they're doing the same thing everybody else is.
I think one of the biggest issues, and I think Barcus brought this up earlier, but one of the biggest issues that we see with failed launches have to do with planning a really good launch strategy. So usually if someone ends up failing a launch, right, the launch doesn't work, it's a result of not necessarily looking into the market well enough and or planning a launch for the exact number of units that you should be giving away to either match or exceed the velocity that's going on in that market. And or you also, kind of like Leo said, you have a product that's been just dead for a long time. And from that, you can't implement the same, like you can't just run a one-day launch, then give away like 50 units and expect to be on page 1 and then stay on page 1. I think that there are certain subtle changes that have happened over the past maybe year. If you go 2 years back, it was way different, right? But now you could just kind of have to be really more intentional with the market. You have to know which market you're getting into. You have to know whether your product has been dead for a long time or whether you can just run some velocity to it to get it up, and or whether you convert well after you're on page 1 as well. Generally speaking, on a macro level, again, like launches still work, but you just have to be really more intentional with your strategy.
Okay, so let's talk about the launch process essentially. And I'm going to jump forward a little bit. A year ago, 7-day, 8-day launches for a new product seem to work. Some of you now are advising people do very short launches, 1 or 2 days. Where do you guys stand on that as of right now for a new product? And then where do you stand on a relaunch? And you guys can each answer this. Cameron, if you want to go first.
Yeah, for sure. So for the longest time and for a majority of the time that we've done launches, the traditional launch was like 7 to 10 days, right? Maybe even, 7 to 10 days was like the sweet spot. And then one-day launches started coming out not too long ago, started getting hot maybe 2 months ago or 3 months ago, or maybe just 2 months ago. But we started looking into it, and up until now, this is actually really interesting. We were just looking at launch data again really, really recently. And we found when one-day launches first started getting hot, they were actually working really, really well. And we're still seeing them work really well. We're just now, or when we checked very, very recently, we're actually starting to see that more sellers implementing a 1 or 2 day launch are ending up falling off quicker than they were before. And so we don't have enough data to say like, oh yeah, one-day launches aren't as good as they were 2 months ago. But we're kind of just right now starting to see that, like for the longest time, the traditional 7-day launch was like consistent. One-day launches were really, really good, maybe even better if you can develop the strategy right. Now we're kind of seeing a 7-day launch come back as just a really good, consistent option. Not that one-day launches don't work, but that's generally what we see.
Cool. Barcus?
I agree 100% with what Cameron said. So we, for the longest time when we started, it was, run a 1 day, hit it with a 7-day, maybe another 7-day or 8-day after that for a really competitive product. But then about 6 months ago, we saw these 1 and 2 day blasts like really, really working and being effective. Now in our testing that we see they're still working, but the staying power is not as effective as it used to be. And there's so many variables out there to consider as far as staying power, because buyers look at star rating more and more. And I don't want to talk about reviews right now because that would take about 3 days to go over. But we're seeing that for the more competitive products, 7-8 day strategy is working better than a 1 day. Like they'll both get you there in a day converting listing. I wish I had launched a brand 5 or 6 years ago on Amazon because it'd been a lot easier. But it takes you fine tuning every variable of your listing and your launch process and how you look at competitors and keywords now to really come in there and get there and stay there and start taking some market share away.
Cool. Leo, what are your thoughts?
I agree that this is a very complex problem. Launch alone will not solve all the issues. A lot of failed launches are due to a variety of reasons. Some of them are, of course, no. If you just launch, hit the first page, and you don't pick up organic sales, you're going to fail. Also, something that a lot of people don't know is that old accounts have more value in the eyes of Amazon than the brand new accounts. So you may get flagged for something as a brand new account, as a seller. So it may not work for you because something abnormal happens in your launch strategy. But 1 day launches, we've seen them come up very quickly and dropping out also quickly. So if you want some, I always think that you need to make it look like it's like as if it's a normal process. It should not have spikes. Nothing should have spikes. That's why I still stick by 4, 5, or 7, 8 days launches. And I've seen a lot of success with those. May not be as fast as 1 day launch, but at least they stick definitely better in the long run. So I would go for 7, 8 launch. Could those and launches actually do the wave slowly phase out, not just cut it off.
Right. So these 1 or 2 day launches, could they be falling off faster in your opinion? Because there's just not trailing history behind that. It's just like a big spike and then boom, once they start averaging 7 days, 30 days, it's just not there.
It is just a theory. I know for a fact that old accounts more than 1 year old are treated better by Amazon than less than 1 year old accounts. And a lot of flags are removed for older accounts. So it's just my theory that these new sellers, they come in with a brand new product and they launch and something gets flagged. It may be something else, I don't know. So those are usually the failed launches. And 1 day spike, it looks abnormal. You have no sales and you have 1 day spike and then again, nothing. You have to maintain that sales velocity somehow for a longer period of time, I guess. So naturally is in and is out, in my opinion, is better. It may not give as fast results as a 1 day launch, but in a long period of time, it will give better results. And also, if you don't start converting organically, the game is over. So maybe if you don't get enough full price sales after you launch and you're on page 1, kick that PPC and do something else. I don't know, do something else. Do not just rely on this, okay, I did a launch, so sit back and relax. No.
Okay. Ian, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, in my opinion, that you should be doing this all as a holistic approach and kind of looking at multiple different traffic signals to send to Amazon and utilize the coupons from Viral Launch or from Zon Pages or ZonJump and Rebate Key and PPC. And you got to really make it look organic in order to be able to stick the landing when you actually do a launch.
Okay. But are you using 1 day, 2 days, or 7 days, 10 days? What are you using?
So with Rebate Key, it's actually, you get to choose how long you do it. So we're not actually advising anybody on a launch. We're more of a marketing platform for distributing rebates. So that's a little bit different.
You're a 7 figures. What do you use personally?
Personally, I'll do a 7 day blast, and I'll also do like a 10 to 15 day Rebate Key on top of it at the same time.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Hey, well, one question I had for you guys, when I was doing launches, there was a thing that seemed to be, it's kind of coined like a honeymoon period. Like if you catch a product like in its first couple weeks that it's live, Amazon gives it this big boost, and like maybe you target 4 keywords, but then for like 50 other keywords, it'll put you to page 1 or 2 just, on its own. But then there's like a certain time where it kind of like all falls off. Do you guys still see that, with any of your customers, where if they hit it on a brand new listing that Amazon gives it that extra juice, or is that honeymoon period kind of not a thing anymore?
I don't
It's
think
a
there's
real
any,
thing.
well, I don't think there's any extra juice, but you started first. I'll let you go ahead. So
Okay, sorry.
No, that's why I love this podcast, because we have a
no. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there is definitely honeymoon. I don't know anybody who objects to that, not at least not in our MDS group. There's definitely honeymoon period. It's 40, 45 days when you are indexed for every single keyword. Basically, you have this juice, and then you're slowly getting de-indexed because you don't convert for those keywords. And I think somebody wrote an article somewhere about getting your listing re-indexed. So there is a method, I'm not going to say what it is, but you can probably Google it, to put yourself back into honeymoon. So honeymoon is real.
Barcus, you were saying?
I agree. Well, I don't agree that there's like extra juice from Amazon or de-ranking juice or anything like that. That Amazon measures sales velocity and sales activity. And if you get to page 1, like let's say you launch a product and on day 1, you run a blast and you get to page 1 for a couple of keywords. If you don't have any sales, if you just have 0 sales for the next 7 or 8 days, yeah, it's going to drop off. I don't know. I just don't think that Amazon provides preferential treatment to new listings or to, they might, it could be, it could be wrong. I don't think there's anything there. I try to follow some kind of, I guess on a bigger level, logic behind that. It doesn't make any logical sense. What if I have an amazing product? Amazon wants the best products in front of their customers. So what if I have an amazing product and just because it's 8 years old, I can't rank it, So I don't think that they would not help me out or not help me out just because of the just because factor. There is logic in that, it is harder to rank an older listing if it has a lot of days that have 0 sales history. We know that negatively impacts it, but that's logical. I don't think that there's any special juice from Amazon, in my opinion.
Cameron?
Can I speculate? So I'll say what we're seeing and then I'll speculate a little bit. But what we are seeing is that there is a quote unquote grace period, but for launches specifically. So I truly do believe that it is easier to achieve page 1 ranking if you are a new product and you launch pretty much right away. Generally, we're seeing that last like 2-ish weeks. We don't have an exact day number to give to that, but 2-ish weeks, we've seen people achieve page 1 ranking pretty quickly. Why do I think that's the case? I don't know, to push back on the idea of Amazon supporting a new product a little bit. I think that if Amazon sees if a new product is put in my mind, this is a way for Amazon system to say, hey, there's a brand new product that a lot of people like. Let's put it in front of people to see if more people will buy it compared to the other products that are already on page 1. And so I have seen firsthand products that converted much, much better than the products that were already on page 1. Brand new product, launched right away, gave away not many units at all, achieved page 1 ranking, and stayed there with other products that have been there for years. So why? Again, don't know exactly, but maybe in support of new products being able to compete, at least testing out whether they can compete against products that have been on for a while.
All right. Leo, any final comments on that?
Actually, there is a logical sense why new products should be given the juice. Viral launch explained that. Yeah, to allow new products, to at least show themselves. And there is a reason why all the products will not rank. Is good products with good sales history, with low amount of returns, refunds, with good review history. They probably are not that much affected by that, but a lot of products have a problem, especially PL products. They have a problem of returns, refunds, and that is part of the formula. If you want to relaunch a product, it's a common knowledge is not anymore a 7-day business. It could be a 2-month business, you know. You might as well, do one of those refresh things and relaunch the product. If it doesn't sell, if it's somewhere on page, I don't know what. And also keywords, Amazon is an algorithm targeted at maximizing their profits, right? So they do de-index you for keywords that you do not convert for. And they do give you all the keywords that you were trying to rank for within these first few weeks to see if you convert for them. You know, that's why new products, they're easier to launch and rank. It doesn't mean they will stay for those keywords in the long run.
Where do you feel these, and anybody can answer this, where do you feel the 2 weeks, let's say it's a 2-week honeymoon period, when does that start? Is it when it actually goes live on Amazon? Is it from the first piece of traffic that hits it? When does that actually start?
Day you turn it on.
The day you make it active. Even if the product is not in stock yet, or does it have to be in stock at that point?
Yeah, in stock active. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool.
We've seen the same thing, in stock active.
Do you guys still recommend people close their listings until the product actually arrives, or is that something that's antiquated now?
I wouldn't let a listing just stay alive and say currently available if you're waiting 3 or 4 weeks for inventory to come in, because there's just you're accumulating 0 days of zero days of sales history. I would close it and then turn it back once you have, if it's just a few days, just leave it on. But if you're accumulating, 30, 45, 60 days of just 0 days of sales history, it can hurt your rankings.
In the MDS group, we a lot of us will set our future selling date on the listing so that it won't actually show up, but you don't actually have to close the listing.
Okay.
All right. Switching gears a little bit. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. I'm sure you guys are too. And one thing that I always see, about, I call them conspiracy theorists or something, that products rank.
We're getting into good stuff now.
Yeah, product ranks achieved through launches, they're being penalized, where the rankings are going to fall much harder and faster, and they're harder to maintain, as if you had reached that position organically. Is there any truth to this? Have you guys seen this? Does any of you feel that if you have reached page 1, doing a giveaway, that you're somehow penalized for it?
No. Not at all.
No. A lot of that is coming from the groups. A lot of that ranking is coming from the groups where Chinese are using fake accounts, and those get penalized because Amazon actively hunts those unreal, not real buyers. But as long as you have real people with real purchasing behavior, it does not matter. It's not the discount, again, it's who buys it. That's what matters.
Okay, jumping back a little bit to the relaunch, and I know you talked about resetting. We won't really get into that, but how long would you guys recommend for a relaunch? Do you guys have numbers for terms of the number of days?
It depends on the keyword, where you're ranking, what you're converting. There's just too many variables to say what works across the board. I really try to, I'm sure everybody else does. You really try to dive in to see which keywords you want to rank for. Are you on page 20 or are you on page 5? Because it all makes a difference. How many competing products, what's the search volume? So right, it all makes a difference.
So you talked about, whether it's converting. Are you guys looking at the client's conversion rates before recommending the launch? Is that what you do?
I do. It's hard to, if it's been out there for like 3 weeks, it's really hard to gauge what their real conversion rate is. But if they've been around for, a year, 6 months or longer, I try to get that information from them. Maybe look at their session report before, because it all makes a difference. If I convert at 35% on one listing, but everybody else converts at, 25% on page 1, you're going to stay there. You're going to take some market share from the top of page 1. So, same thing goes if you have a really poor converting listing, 3 or 4%, you're going to go to the top of page 1 and fall right back down. Because nobody's going to buy your product.
All right. I'm going to jump way back because Bradley asked a question before I could finish one of the topics we talked about. We're talking about effectiveness of doing promotions on Facebook, let's say with coupon codes or wherever, any social media versus going to a network that has, let's say 50,000 people that, are conditioned to actually download or to use the coupon codes. Very quickly, you guys feel there is a difference or isn't a difference? Leo, you said you felt there was, and Barcus, I think was it you that said you don't feel there is a difference? And I don't know if Cameron, if you even answered this.
May I begin?
Go for it. Yeah, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, well, I kind of represent all three launch methods. I'm part of Rebate Key. I have data from there. I'm ZonJump. I have data from discounted launches. And I also, through Zone Pages, we allow people to distribute promo codes through the ManyChat campaigns. So kind of like Zapier, but much easier. So I also will launch it recently, Manny, just after the conference. Yeah, and what is happening there? And we did a lot of tests. In Facebook, if you run an ad to your messenger, for example, and you give a promo code, there are a lot of these hunters for the deals that do just the same. They hunt for those ads and they wipe out your inventory with those fake buyers. So you have to be actually quite careful not to get in the hands of those groups. There are networks of people that are hunting those coupons to resell on Amazon. So Rebate Key, I would think, would be the safest bet because they get rebate only after everything is cool. You know, you cannot resell, you cannot anything with those products. So, and what we do in ZonJump, we push them through such filters that we actually have a database of all these people. And but still, some people may sift through somehow. So I would say launch platforms that do take care of who buys from their products are the safest. If you're running a Facebook ad and you do 99% off, you may become a victim of those networks. If you do 50% off, 70% off, maybe not. Maybe they're not going to even look at your ad. You pay a little bit more, but you get better quality of buyers. If you do Rebate Key, you have full price sale. It's kind of safe too. So that's my opinion.
I think so. Opinion from Viral Launch, right? I think you have more control over whether you're running through a pretty good like protected launch platform. Whereas if you're trying to run ads through Facebook, you have a little bit less control over the velocity that you're putting into your product launch. And I think we're just not really seeing a difference from like the I'm just going to say launch potency from bringing in traffic through Facebook versus a launch directly. But I think a lot of people get lost in this subject. I think a lot of it comes down to control. And so that's what I would just leave this with is just, it depends on kind of what your goals are. If you want to build your own list or if you're okay with using someone else's list or launch platform essentially. But a lot of it does come down to control and your ability to influence how much you're pushing into your product.
I agree with both of you. I don't think that despite of where the traffic comes from, if they're putting in a coupon code, I don't think that there's any difference. And here's why, because if I have this amazing brand that I can just launch my product to my community on, let's say, Instagram and Facebook, why would Amazon penalize that in a certain degree or put me at risk or flag me? Versus it's just kind of the same concept if I'm using Viral Launch or if I have my own community of people of my own brand, if I have an engaged audience and all I do is hit them, which is what you want to do as a brand, you don't want to use a launch service if you have your own audience and your own traffic. Why would Amazon penalize me for doing what I'm supposed to do? That's my conspiracy theory right there. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
so.
I would say that Amazon is looking at the natural sales and purchasing abilities of a buyer. And so when somebody is only signing on and buying products at a steep discount, Amazon's noticing that and they're giving you less buyer credit for that stuff. And
I would love to see some data behind that because we don't.
Yeah, we're not. I'm not
going to
really responsible.
Yeah, I would love to see an article with some information. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't see it.
Well, we've seen documents from Amazon that suggest this exact.
Well, yeah. So I've seen that, but they don't suggest that it hurts a sale. They just say that they're tracking these behaviors, and this is applied. They don't say in those documents that it's hurting a sale.
what I'm suggesting is that there's a ranking score to every sale. And so having all these factors using multiple launch services is a better strategy than just using one source of traffic, because it's very easy to see. And I'm not saying that any of these traffic sources don't work. I'm just saying that in the future, in the history, we need to evolve and have a holistic approach of launching our products.
Of course. I don't think that, using one tool will help anybody, get to 7-8 figures. I just disagree that Amazon has a negative ranking score for somebody and that would hurt my brand if I give them a 90% off coupon code. How do I know that person is only buying 90%? Why would they penalize me if I don't know anything?
Let me ask you this. Why are certain listings getting review blocks?
I have my own opinion on that. I had a listing that got 601, nail in the coffin. I had 4 reviews over a 7-day period, and then they shut me down. And I think it's because I launched that product and I didn't have any verified reviews. This is my opinion. I think that I didn't have any verified reviews on there. It was just kind of like a newbie beginner mistake on my part. I got 4 reviews and they were all tied to a large discount. I was sending out just the regular, follow-up sequences that went out to everybody. And I think that's why Amazon won't tell you. I think level 1 seller support, they don't know, so they're not going to tell you. Seller performance isn't going to tell you. But that's my opinion. That's what I think. Because I didn't get 4 reviews in one day. I got 4 reviews in a 7-day period, and then they're like 601. Like I've had full price. I've had organic sales message me saying, "Hey, I can't leave a review." So, and that was for a brand new listing too. So it was. That's my theory, and it's based off of one interaction.
How long ago was that?
This was Bradley. I told you about it, but this was. Oh man, this was maybe a month ago.
Also, it was pretty recent.
Yeah, this was like a month ago. Yeah.
You said it was a newbie mistake, so that's why I was asking.
Well, yeah, no. Yeah, this was no. I'm sorry, this was a Prime Day launch. So this was back in July. It wasn't a couple. It wasn't a month ago. It was a Prime Day launch. So.
Okay. Any additional thoughts on this, guys?
I want to support Ian in what he said. I'll give you exact numbers. If you have more than 50% of sales with any discount within the first 3 months of your sales, you're going to be punished. Your listing will be probably either de-indexed for the keywords that you have, or heavily de-indexed, or penalized in some way.
That's a huge statement. So if somebody's just launching a product and they want to do a launch to rank, and they do a 75% off coupon code for the keywords in a two-step URL, they're going to get penalized, in your opinion?
More than 50% of sales come from this discount. They will lose their rankings.
Okay, not a discount, but more than 50% of the sales.
And you said is it over 3 months? You're saying that where you've seen that, or?
3 months is a magic number in Amazon. 3 months trailing, they check like all your history. 3 months, yes.
So you want to make sure you're not at that ratio at 90 days.
You want to make sure, if you are not getting organic sales, kick in PPC, match up those 50, like at least 50% of sales for full price should come in.
Interesting. Have you guys seen that viral launch or 6-leaf?
No, I haven't seen it. I think that there's logic behind there. I don't know what hard numbers there are, so I'm going to agree with Leo a little bit for a chance. I think if you run launches for however you do it, whether you run deep discounted Facebook ads or you use any type of launch service, and all you have is largely discounts, it would make sense that Amazon might penalize you to a certain degree. But that's it. Like that's over a certain period of time. Maybe 90 days. If you're not getting organic sales and you're just forcing your listing there for 2 or 3 months, that makes sense to me. I haven't seen it, but that's also something that we haven't, honestly, I haven't looked at as far as testing on a wide scale is going, but we haven't gone back into our data 90 days to see that specific instance. So he could very well be right. It does make sense that they would do that.
Cameron, you've been following the data?
Yeah. I've been following the data. Yeah, sure. We actually haven't necessarily seen this kind of taking full effect. And we've had some pretty big sellers pass through our system. And the data that I'm giving you is, I don't want to say it's outdated. It's just not as recent, where I think Amazon has been making a lot of changes very, very recently. Okay. So I just want to stipulate that. But we have had large sellers who are competing in really, really competitive, very, very competitive markets, who just launch their product over and over and over again for 30 plus days. And they maintain ranking through that. Now, a launch is not the only thing that they are doing to sustain that traffic, but it is one medium in this extremely competitive environment where they're getting a lot of sales, a lot of organic sales as well. But they'll give away a number of large competitors, or a number of large sellers gave away a lot of units, got to page one, and then kept on giving those units over and over and over again for like a month, and maintained rank, partly, I believe, because of that, partly because of organic traffic. That's what we've seen. We've seen it happen.
Okay. All right, guys. We're going to do some rapid fire. There's about a dozen questions in here still that we want to go through. So I'm not going to call on anybody. You guys just jump in, and if you have a thought on any of this stuff. But what does not work anymore when it comes to launches?
Poor planning. I mean, not planning at all. We see it so many times, just not planning, not understanding your market, not understanding the keywords.
Mm-hmm. What are products? Name 3 products, each of you, that you should absolutely stay away from. You guys see it daily. What would they be?
Vitamin C serum, Garcinia cambogia. What's another one that's just insanely competitive? Somebody help me out here.
Magnetic cords.
Yoga mats. Yoga mats. Stay away from yoga mats.
Yoga mats. Fitness wraps. Ashwagandha.
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of these back straighteners, like a wave. I don't know where they're coming from, but the market cannot swallow. That's another reason for the fail. Sometimes comes this wave of people launching in the same way, and they all want to compete for these top spaces. They all do the launch, So yeah, a lot of these products that are advertised, I don't know, by some groups, like buy this, buy that, this is a hot product. Just stay away from it. Focus on your own niche. And I've seen a lot of people making more money in narrow niches than in going after this number one product in the most competitive niche. Because there are very big sellers in those niches, and you're not going to beat them. They know more than you. If you're a new seller, you're getting into the space, pick some narrow niche, far away from the noise, and you're going to be more successful.
All right. What are keyword mistakes that people are making when they want to launch and rank for one? Throw those out.
Not allocating enough units for as many days as they need to. Vitamin C serum is always an example I use. You're not going to do anything if you try to give out 10 units a day. You might move from page 20 to 15, but you really have to understand the volume of those keywords, how competitive they are, and then look at what people are doing on page 1 to really understand how effective you can be with that keyword.
Yeah, at Rebate Key, we allow people to use their own URLs. And so we see people that actually just use like a URL without any keyword embedded, and they're trying to give away 50 a day. Knowing what you're doing, do the research, do the planning. I think that's really important for people to do, and pick a product but just pick a product that isn't what everybody else is doing. Find your own niche, and that you're going to be way more successful.
People aren't targeting the right keywords. People also have, and it's not necessarily their fault, but they have a really hard time finding the balance between picking the right keywords to even just put into their listing, but also writing the copy for their listing that meshes perfectly, like a perfect balance of readability and great keywords that you need to include. So it's hard for people to be professional copywriters, but that's generally what we see people struggling with.
Okay. If they're going after a pretty difficult keyword phrase, would you recommend that be at the first phrase in the title, or does that not really matter much?
It does matter. Yeah, so really competitive phrase, put it in the title. It works better. Following the previous question, a lot of listings are not ready for the launch, and that's number one reason for failed launch. So they have shitty products, they have bad reviews or no reviews or whatever, and very bad bullets, very bad description. So even if they're up there, so what? Or their pricing, like they should be below average. If nothing else is good, at least make the price lower, right? So that's, I guess, number one reason for failure.
So during a launch, if everybody's at $29 and you do a launch and you're giving it away at 80% off, at least try to, even when you go back, when your launch is done, come in at a lower price so that that organic velocity starts to kick in, right?
Yeah, a lot of people try to compensate their launch. Well, I'm already giving a discount, so I'm going to increase my price. It's not going to work. People don't see your discount on the organic listing, right? So
these are a lot of the things that you guys see as the reason as people fail consistently. But what about those of your customers who are consistently crushing it and they're getting to page one? Are there any common traits that you see with these guys that you can comment on?
Usually they're very knowledgeable. And their listings are super cool. Yeah, very good photography, very good listing copy. They are the best. Big sellers usually perform better in the launches than medium and small sellers.
Okay.
I think successful sellers are really good at getting outside of their own head. So oftentimes we see that maybe a seller thinks that their photos are pretty good and that's why they're confident in it, but they're actually just awful. If that seller is willing to accept the fact that he or she is not the best at photography or doesn't have the best listing, they're going to go through what's necessary to get those great photos, get that great listing. That just like screams quality. That's honestly, it's just a huge trait that we see in successful sellers.
So if you had to sum up the biggest mistake that people make, is it keywords? Is it title? Is it the product photography? Just picking the wrong product? What would you say is the number one? Just throw them out there, guys.
There is no number one. Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. Just everything in general. Okay. Well, what would be? Go ahead, Cameron.
I was just going to say I'm going to have to agree with Leo again. I'm turning the tables here. That it's just a combination of things. Yeah, I mean, people will sometimes choose not the right keywords, or they might choose the right keywords, but they have a really bad main image, or they have one negative review. So it's just a combination of things. I wish we could give you a definitive answer. I don't think there is one.
And Cameron touched on this also, that it's not only it's a combination of things, but also a combination of traffic sources that help you for the win. And so you said your biggest sellers are using your service and probably a combination of a lot of other strategies to drive traffic to the listing. I think all those things combined, using Rebate Key and 6leaf or ZonJump or Viral Launch, those are all going to make a better chance of ranking. And so you need to take as many things in your control when you're doing a launch. And that's what we do in our brands. And that's what I see the best sellers doing, is not just like trying this one quick hit and you think that's it. No, we're all doing so many things to improve our brands, to improve our launch strategies. And you need to follow those.
Okay. Going from what you said, Ian, do you guys feel like there's a difference? If let's say you're giving away 300 units, is it better? Are you going to see a difference whether you use one service for those 300 versus spreading it out over, evenly over 5 different sources? Does Amazon see that as better and rank you better?
We've all seen, well, maybe some of us seen that funnel, that incoming traffic, outgoing traffic, how Amazon sees the data, again, from those Chinese leaked papers. Amazon will not think it's normal if you have all your traffic within 3 months coming from the same place. So I would go ahead and agree with Ian. You need to spread out. You need to do Viral Launch, Zone Blast, ZonJump, do your coupons through the ManyChat campaign, for example. Do the PPC maybe a little bit later. And all that will make it look normal to Amazon.
Okay. That's kind of Mike McClary talks about his blitz, where he's just slam it from every angle that you can. And we've seen really good results. So
you use all the levers and the tools that you have available. Use Helium 10 to find the right keywords to target. I mean, you utilize everything. Don't just, this was a guy selling a back support and you're just going to target back support. Maybe you should target women's back support, So utilize all the tools to figure out what is the best place to go and with the least amount of competition.
What are ways people can, what are things that people can do to maintain that page one ranking once they're there? Other than, obviously, let's assume their listing is good. Everything is reasonably set. Is there anything that they can do, whether it's PPC, anything else that you recommend they do?
So we suggest tag. Oh, go ahead, Barcus. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's fine.
Well, what we suggest to sellers is generally after, let's say a seller runs a launch and gets to page one after like 7 days. Awesome. If they are not as confident in their product converting organically to match the sales that are going on, or they just want to ensure have a higher chance of staying on page one, we'll recommend, we call it a maintenance launch, but essentially it's just kind of decreasing the number of sales that you're pushing through a launch, but extending the launch period. So like you launch for 7 days, you get to page one, you create essentially another launch that lasts for maybe another 10 to 20 days where you decrease the amount of traffic. We have not seen a negative result come from that. In fact, we've seen that combined with PPC be actually a really good strategy for sellers, just maintaining that page one ranking until they can really, hopefully, convert organically.
Okay.
Barcus?
No, so I agree with everything. I would also encourage everybody, and I don't think enough sellers do this, is when your launch is over, start tracking your sessions and your unit session percentage, or some people call it conversion rate. Start tracking that information. And if you know what it is before and those numbers increase and they stay at that level, then you did something good. It's important to watch them every day. And I know Amazon doesn't update everything in real time, so sometimes there is a delay. But if you see one of those numbers, one of those metrics start to drop, you probably can correlate it to a certain keyword. So watching that maybe you can catch a keyword before it just starts to drop off of page one. If you start seeing a trend of, well, my sessions are dropping, that was my only tip is monitor the metrics that Amazon gives you and use them to your advantage.
Would you guys run heavy sponsored ads to that specific phrase that you're targeting at the same time as the launch, right after the launch?
No.
We've
just from what we've seen is, these buyers that are our buyers are on multiple lists, and they start to kind of get, I guess it's lazy. So what can happen is you can have maybe I'm targeting vitamin C serum. Well, maybe they didn't get to the right page, or maybe they backed up and they got distracted and they're not back at the link that they should be. They're just going to type in the brand name vitamin C serum and then just click on the sponsored ad. We've seen that happen quite a bit. If you're targeting vitamin C serum at the same time in a PPC as a launch, I would recommend either dial it down or target some other keywords that have vitamin C serum in at the same time in PPC.
Okay. Anybody agree or disagree?
I totally agree with that. Yep.
Perfect.
All right. Well, other than discounted coupon, code launches that we've been talking about, well, what other ways do you see coming for sellers to do launches? Obviously we have the rebate key we've talked about too. So between these two methods, is there anything else that you see as a possible methodology we could use to launch?
Well, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Well, it all depends how long you are in business. Like a lot of people create this massive audiences in their mailing lists and their now ManyChat, in the chatbots, in their messenger. Those are other methods of launching. Of course, you can go also to the influencers and do all sorts of other ways of marketing. What I've noticed is if you're on the upward spiral, you need to keep going on the upward spiral. The minute you stop, you don't stay, you go on the downward spiral. And we talked a lot about it in MTS, that you need to maintain the push, and I spent so much on marketing already, I should stop. No, you're out of the game if you stop. So you need to keep pushing it. You need to create your own audiences because it's gonna make your next launch cheaper, right? But you need to use all the instruments to keep pushing. It depends on your niche. In some niches, you just stay forever and nothing happens. I don't know of such niches, but you need to keep bringing more and more traffic, external traffic, to outcompete your competitors.
Okay. Target one keyword phrase or multiple keyword phrases during a launch. What do you recommend?
I think it depends on the keyword. Again, we'll go back to vitamin C serum as an example. If you've got 500 or 1,000 units, don't target that keyword. You can't get to page one with 500 units for vitamin C serum. Or if you do, you might have 50 units left over, and then you run out. And if you haven't planned for that, then that can be really bad. I've been playing around with something for a while, and we let some beta users in on it, and we just launched it, I guess, like a final beta to our active users, where you can target up to 50 keywords at a time. And I've done it on my own brand. And our thought process is this, is you go after maybe some mid volume or low volume keywords. Because number one, they're easier to rank for. You don't need as many units. They could also be easier to convert because there's simply less competition. You might find some keywords that the top 3 sellers aren't, they're not even targeting those keywords. Adding them up over time can be beneficial to your listing. And there's also just kind of like a certain psychology behind it. Number one is like the more real estate you have on Amazon, the better. But also, there's a certain psychology of consumerism where people have to see a brand or a listing or a product multiple times before they decide to make a purchase. That's why we all use PPC, because you're buying real estate. So that's kind of the thought process behind that. But it's also different for every product. It's different for every listing. So.
Yeah, I really think it depends on the amount of resources that the person has to put into the product. So, Barcus, like you said, I mean, if someone has a limited number of resources and is trying to target a primary keyword in a pretty competitive market, it's going to be just very difficult if you can't match that number and get there. And so what I would say is if someone doesn't have a whole lot of resources or enough to really like go for the big winners, then I think it is a really good strategy to target maybe like your tertiary keywords, or like just some keywords that are still getting enough traffic, still getting enough search volume that makes sense for you to get into, because then you can just kind of build some organic sales from there, and maybe you'll gain ranking otherwise in your primary keyword, right? And then maybe after some time, you'll gain some resources, some money, some cash flow from those secondary or tertiary keywords, which will allow you to, if you want, target that primary specifically.
I think there's a big misconception with people when they use like Helium 10 and they look up a keyword and they see where everything is ranking and how much sales they're doing, and they think, oh, that keyword produces this many sales. And they're not realizing that that's actually the sales in general of all keywords that make up the sales. And that might be, let's say you're switching the main keyword, that might be only 50% of the sales. So the other 40% is all long tail or, more specific types of searches. And so you need to realize that there are other keywords you could actually rank number 1 for and be at the top. So it could be, the best damn vitamin C serum. You might be able to rank number 1 for that, but you won't rank number 1 for vitamin C serum.
I see a lot of people asking whether they should go after a bunch of shorter long tail keywords initially and help build up those sales so that they can later target the big one. Do you feel like that's a good model to go after, or are they going to potentially fail because they're not going to have the velocity ever needed to get to that point?
For me as a seller, I think it makes a big difference to know where you are in this cycle of building your business, because if you can't survive launching a very high volume product and keep your inventory in stock, you're going to fail. So, know where you are. And if you're in the beginning stages, you should not focus on something so big and try and hit a home run. You need to hit a couple of, singles and doubles before you can play in the big leagues. And I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes.
Okay. The rest of you agree with that?
I think if I'm and of course I really do agree with that strategy. But if I'm a mid-level seller and I have a decent amount of resources, time is also a really important part of the Amazon game. Time spent at the top, basically, right? And cash flow is everything as well. If I have enough resources and I'm willing to take a little bit more of a risk, I have a blanket of maybe a couple other products, I'm probably going to try to target that primary keyword first. Just because maybe that's who I am, and because again I have that amount of resources. But more time spent in the primary on page 1 with the most search volume and the most sales attributed to that keyword is just going to mean more cash flow for me that I can then spend on my business.
So would you guys rather be ranked for one keyword that gets 100,000 search volume per month, or 10 keywords that get 10,000 each, all on page 1? What would you prefer?
Depends on how you convert on those. So
let's say you're going in, you don't know though. You don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, sure. I think either way, it can be beneficial to you. At the end of the day, it is all about how you convert. If for vitamin C serum, I might not convert on best vitamin C serum because I don't have any reviews. Why would anybody buy the best vitamin C serum if I don't have any reviews? I think it makes sense. People are smart these days. It's not as easy as it used to be. Obviously, it really depends. I think you can go at it either way, and that's what's great about selling anything online, you have so many avenues of ways to drive traffic or marketing to get exposure and attention, which is what we all want. I think either way, you got to have a plan. Whichever way you go, have a proper plan in motion.
Right, but if I'm a client, I'm coming to you. This is my brand new market. I want to get an answer out of you, Barcus. What do you suggest? I can go for 100,000 keyword, or I can go for 10,000 keywords. Which one do you recommend?
Same answer. It depends on the keywords, because you might find a keyword that might report back in Helium 10 that it has 25 searches a month. No, don't target that keyword. Target that keyword later down the road. It's easy to rank for, but you might not be able to convert because it gets less than a search a day. So in the beginning, if the goal is organic sales, to drive everything and start that wheel in motion, so I'll go back and say, hit the primary keyword as long as you have the resources to do so.
One thing that I used to do is, let's say vitamin, I think I did launch a vitamin C serum last year, but I would target like 4 or 5 at once, I would do the vitamin C serum, and then using that word as like a seed word at the same time that I'm launching against that one, I would target 4 or 5 other words that had vitamin C serum in it. And I noticed that I also got just a little bit of juice towards that main keyword by using that as a seed keyword in the other words, in the longer tail ones. This was last year. I don't know if that if any of you guys customers still use that, but that was what I always do before.
Well, generally,
that also. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to say that if you have a 2-word main keyword, for example, you can target 5 3-word, 4-word keywords that include that node keyword, and that keyword will also go up in rankings. So it also works. Yeah. Is
it pretty equal? Like if vitamin C serum is the main keyword, and I'm targeting best vitamin C serum, for the number of giveaways, would it move up for vitamin C serum about the same amount?
No.
Well,
it depends on search volume. So I did a test with I did a test launch, and it was for Prime Day, and I targeted I targeted 50 keywords over a 4-day period. And this failed, by the way. So, but it's good knowledge. I targeted 50 keywords that had my core keyword in there. And I got to page 1 for, I think, 40 plus of them. Now I didn't convert well because, I was trying to rush it for Prime Day. I did my own photos, and I wasn't in Prime because I didn't get my inventory in on time. So there's several converting factors that are on my fault, but it was a good test because I got to page 4 for my core keyword. I popped there, and I stayed there for a while. My core keyword has about 60 to 70,000 in exact search volume and about 9 to 10,000 competing products. So I popped on page 4. Well, okay, I ranked page 4. Pages change. I would say I got to around 50, and I stayed number 50 for a while before I fell off. So the reason it failed is those converting factors, but I also targeted a lot of keywords that had really, really, really low search volume. I knew I was probably going to fail, but I wanted to see. So going back into it, I've got inventory on the way, and I've got more professional images now. And these are new listings, so I'm going to get some verified reviews. But I want to see if I can get to page 1. That was my theory, is can I get to page 1 without targeting, for my core keyword without targeting it? So I'm going to see if that happens.
Cool.
All right, cool. Now, okay, you guys, we talked a little bit about this before, but you guys are in the Facebook groups. You have your own Facebook groups. What is like the number 1 or the top 2 fake news that you see out there talking about giveaways or launches that you just like makes your blood boil when you see people post it and then people are believing it and reposting it? Like what are some of these things that you see?
That is just not TOS compliant.
Okay, not TOS compliant, Barcus.
That's the number 1 trigger for me, at least. So,
Leo?
Well, that certain URL doesn't work, for example, or 90% off coupons don't work. So that's fake news.
Ian?
Yeah, 90%.
Our camera.
90% promotions not working.
Just that launches don't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
In general,
the 90% off. Yeah. Man, it just gets you.
I mean, we're all launching. I mean, all the time.
So 90% or 50%, it doesn't really make a difference.
It's like sellers want to believe that it's true, and they act like it is true, but it's just not. And they're like, I don't know. I think sellers want to believe that it is true just because it's like, oh, it's exciting. It's this exciting piece of news that it's not working anymore. But I mean, it is.
Is there a verified review cutoff for a percentage where it doesn't count anymore? If somebody actually buys something at a discount, they leave a review, it won't show up as verified?
Last time I tested it, it was 49%. If you went 50 and then it was unverified. But I've seen reports lately that it is 20%.
Wow.
So I can't verify that though.
Can anybody verify that? Anybody got the data?
I've seen it all over the place, so there is no fixed percentage, I guess.
Okay.
Even the completely verified reviews get removed these days based on review velocity, which have to be under 5%.
Per 5% per what?
Of purchases, under 5% of purchases should result in review. If you get more, you may get a review ban.
Is that on a 30-day kind of trailing history, or do you know what it is? If you just go over 5% at any point, it triggers?
No, it triggers, but they may, they have a lot of these people that check your account in India, and it may trigger for them, but they may not take action after looking at your account. So it's not automatic.
Okay, interesting. All right, so
I can say with 100% certainty that full price sales will generate reviews.
all right, cool. Barcus, you're laughing over there.
Oh, no. I mean, he's right. So.
All right, cool. It's kind of deviating a little bit. And I noticed this actually with Viral Launch back in the day. When you run a launch and suddenly, because you guys have so many launches going, all of you guys do now, you'll notice that you're paired up with another product, frequently bought together, because the same person is downloading multiple coupons, and you're like, oh, okay, I've got frying pans that are now, frequently bought together with a yoga mat or something, right? And you're like, what? Are there any marketing hacks or strategies that you guys have done or that you think is pretty cool, where you can do a launch on two similar products that you might have to actually get them to be frequently bought together to get a little extra lift? Because you can rank one really well, and then the other one just kind of rides the coattails.
If you run two products on Rebate Key, you'll get frequently bought together. Almost always, I've seen it.
Okay.
I think it's easier for the established listings. We did a special actually the add to cart URL that's on Helium 10. We used that with a guy, one of our clients, and this is a seasoned seller. These listings have been there for 4 or 5 years, and there's tons of reviews, so that's all established. But we did it where you added both to cart, and he created the coupon where it created it for $1 for 2 products, and we made that information available to our buying community, and then it worked. He got the frequently bought together back. So I think there's multiple ways to attack it. I think it's going to be harder to do if you have a brand new product and you're launching. I think it'd just be easier for maybe a seasoned product.
Here's a little hack for whether you use any launch service or Rebate Key, whatever. Launch your best product that actually has traffic and the new one at the same time, and so that the frequently bought together will show up on your actual existing good product. Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. So do you guys have a formula on how, is there any data on what percentage of purchases you need in order to get those things to link?
It happens very fast.
Can you elaborate?
I don't have any specific numbers, but I've done it on my own products. I've seen our people on the platform do it as well. So just take your existing product that is doing really well, that you have traffic on, and then launch your new product, and people will buy. And if they're probably the same brand, people are going to buy those things at the same time. And because that same buyer bought both those things, it's going to show up as frequently bought together. And it only takes a couple of days of doing giveaways. And I generally do 10 a day on Rebate Key, let's say. So it doesn't take a lot.
Okay.
All right. Switching gears, what about title recommendations do you guys suggest for having in place prior to a launch? Do you guys really optimize the canonical URL, or are there character limits or other things like, hey, don't go over this number of characters, or Amazon might deprioritize you, or just general title recommendations for people?
Put your most relevant keywords in the title. I kind of try to stay strict to the Amazon style guidelines. Don't go over 200 characters, whatever Amazon says. Don't go over 200 characters. Put in your most relevant keywords in there. You can optimize your canonical. And I think it's good to do because it doesn't hurt anything. I don't think that it has a negative impact in any way. I don't know if it has a positive impact.
Okay.
Not every category is the same.
Sure.
So if you're selling shoes, for example, they're not going to let you put 200 characters in the title. But yeah, I agree. Follow the Amazon guidelines and stick your most relevant keywords in the title. Yeah.
What's outside of title? What would be the second area that you think?
Bullet points.
Bullet points. Okay. Everybody agrees on that. See, shaking heads. Yeah.
I'd say image. I would say that your image is the highest converting factor when people are searching for products, especially the more competitive. I mean, we're all visual creatures, so if you take that thought process into consideration, having your listing stand out is probably the most beneficial thing. Spend as much as you can on images. I know firsthand, obviously. So
yeah, I was asking about.
I thought we were talking about keywords.
We were.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
that's
apologize.
a good point. No worries. All right, perfect. So not a lot has changed in I guess in the launch process. I guess over the past year, where do you guys see things going in the next year? Any major differences or changes?
I saw Cameron's eyebrow raise there for that question.
I don't know. I think that it's pretty safe to assume that Amazon's just going to be changing a lot. If it's anything like the past 6 months, Amazon will look different 3 months from now than it does right now, right? And so, I mean, part of that, I don't know about the next year, but I think we have to assume that 90% off at some point in time, 90% off promotions or launches won't be the same that they are now. Maybe that'll mean like they just won't work at all. Maybe they won't be around the same way they are now. I think that we have to assume, or we should assume, that they just won't be like they are now so that we can plan ahead for other things. So a year from now, I think if I'm being like really specific and not like, broad in general, I think the 90% off promotion, the launch, traditional launch will still be effective a year from now. Again, this is just me speculating and guessing. But I think that people will very much be exploring other methods. Just like ManyChat came up as a really good tool not too long ago. I think that new tools will be developed. I think it's going to get really, really competitive, and sellers are going to have to utilize a lot to differentiate themselves.
Anyone else?
I think that Amazon is doing a lot of work on ranking people within their platform. So both sellers and buyers, and it will be harder and harder to sell for new sellers and easier to sell for older sellers, mature brands. Same thing for buyers. It will be more and more valuable to have a buyer that is not a recent buyer buying your product with a certain history, certain patterns. They will be more valuable for your listing rather than recently registered buyer, without any history. So I think we're moving into that space where everybody has a rank, and we'll be hunting for those crowds with high rank of buyers. And sellers, for mature sellers, will be easier to sell. And for new sellers, will be harder to sell.
For me, I think that you have to just stay one step ahead of the game and always be constantly evolving. The best entrepreneurs are thinking ahead. What is everybody looking at? What is everybody else doing? Let's do the opposite thing. So I think just being a smart business owner is what's going to set you apart versus trying to get rich quick or just have a one product launch. Like, I'm in it for the long game. I believe in building my business on Amazon and playing within those rules and trying to make sure that we do as much as we can without crossing too many boundaries. And we are up against some very challenging competitors, that are not in this country, and some that are actually in the country. But there's a lot of things that we have to do to keep ourselves ahead of the game, and part of that is being on these podcasts and joining these masterminds and doing those things. And I think that's really what's going to help people be successful, is really staying a step ahead of the game.
All right. Well, one final question then for everybody. Any cool tactic or strategy for our viewers and listeners that we didn't cover today? Just maybe one each from each of you guys. Ian, you got one? Cool tactic, putting you on the spotlight right now.
And if you don't have it for a launch, you could just
or for launch related or non-launch related.
I'll give you something that is probably specific to our platform that I think people don't know about. And that would be that Rebate Key can be used for any marketplace. So let's say you're trying to get your product on Home Depot, and you got your product in HomeDepot.com, and you're trying to get the Home Depot buyer to buy your product. You can actually send Rebate Key buyers to Home Depot to purchase your product and start to generate sales. And when the buyer starts seeing, hey, this product is selling 10 a day, 20 a day, you might get a little bit more attention. Same with Target, Walmart. So a lot of top sellers are actually using this strategy to initiate sales on online marketplaces that'll alert those buyers to bring it in store. So I think there's a big opportunity to use our platform for everything and off Amazon.
All right.
Yeah, I want to add to that it's very easy to rank on Walmart using super URLs, and I've seen people using Rebate Key doing just that. It's like that.
All right. Anyone else? Tactic.
I don't necessarily have a tactic. I gave away my stuff earlier. But I think going back to Manny's previous question about kind of the evolution of everything is we all understand we're all in a SaaS space and where that anything could change at any time for any of us. Amazon could cut off an API access. Launch service could just not work. I mean, they don't allow single-use coupon codes anymore. So we all are looking to the future. We're all looking to see what can we do next. So, and I think, and I would assume everybody agrees with me, the natural expansion of everybody that sells products on Amazon wants to learn how to sell products on Walmart, Google Shopping, because those are the people that are coming after Amazon. They're slowly nipping at the heels. And I think that in 12 to 18 months, everybody's going to want to be there. They're going to, hey, how do I launch everywhere? So that's my conspiracy theory 2 years down the road, what's going to happen. And I think that, we will all, adjust to the industry as we should.
Cameron?
It's not necessarily a hack. It's just something that I really like to encourage sellers to do, because I think it's healthy and I think it's good for sellers to practice is to challenge everything that people say in the Amazon space in a good way. So as you hear something at a conference or as you hear something from whoever's giving out information, really question where they're getting it from, not like interrogate that person, but like take it into yourself and really ask yourself if you should believe them, why you should believe them, and everything like that, because there are a lot of people seeing a lot of different things in the space right now. And ultimately, I think it just boils down to sellers making the decision for themselves. Eventually, it's your business. And so you need to really take the business by your hands and build it yourself, and to follow those resources that you can trust in the space and to just go for it and kill it. That's not really a hack, but that's just what I like to say.
Yeah, no, I agree.
To comment on what Cameron said is I know they do strategy calls. We do too. Take that opportunity and get on the phone with somebody. That's what they do every single day. If you have that option, if a service offers that, any service, I'm not talking about us. I'm just saying, if you have the option to get on the phone with somebody that this is what they do every single day. If you're trying to talk to somebody about Facebook ads, how to do that. If you can get on the phone with somebody, then do it. Take that opportunity, because we all nerd out about this. This call could go on for another 6 hours, easy. So just take that opportunity, use the resources that are free and paid that are available to you, and take advantage of them.
Great. That's great advice.
I want to add to that, the best information, the most advanced tactics and strategies are not publicly shared. And take opportunity and go to those masterminds, meet people that are above you, get those into those groups. If you're serious about this business, if you're not just here temporarily, go to those events, meet people, learn from them. You'll learn way more than any course, any whatever. So that's my tip.
That's fantastic. I mirror that statement on almost every podcast I do. Get out there. I just ran into you in Texas, and really, really good people there. You learn a lot. Any conference, you're going to run into somebody at some point that's going to give you a nugget. If not, you're not doing your job right. You got to say hello to more people. But so this has been good, guys. And you're right, Barcus. This could go on for 6 hours. I think we've only scratched the surface. I wanted to get all the basic questions out of the way that I see a lot of people asking. Didn't want to get super deep into some of the other things, but maybe we can come on in the future, do a part 2, another hour or so, and give you guys an opportunity to kind of a little bit more open forum. We can go back and forth on everything. So, with that being said, I want to thank you all, Ian, Barcus, Leo, Cameron, and of course my co-host Bradley for coming on. And I think this is going to be very enlightening and open a lot of people's minds to the possibility. Hopefully, this stops everybody saying and spreading that launches don't work. that URLs don't work, it's not going to help. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, between these between these who are here, we've got what, like 400, 500, 600 launches a day, here, and they're all saying, hey, they still work. So
yeah. That's the thing I always say in the groups. I'm like, guys, if it stopped working, you'd have, 500 to 1,000 people suddenly that would just be posting everywhere. Oh my God, it doesn't happen. So, guys, you heard it from the mouths of the guys that run these companies right now. So there you go. So thank you guys so much for coming, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Hey, are you looking for a fast and accurate all-in-one Amazon software tool with the most Amazon data of any tool suite on the market? Helium 10 has everything you need all in one package. And when I say everything, I mean product research, keyword research, listing optimization, hijacker alerts, keyword tracking, refunds, and a lot more. Find winning products you might not have ever thought of by using Helium 10's Black Box tool. Or X-ray your competitors' listings and search result pages to uncover crucial market data with Helium 10's X-ray tool. Or spy on your competitors and find their best keywords with our powerful reverse ASIN lookup tool. Or use the Keyword Magnet tool, the most powerful keyword research tool ever created, to reveal all the money-making keywords that you can add to your product listings right now. Helium 10 might even make you money in the first hour of you using it when you use Refund Genie to discover reimbursements that you're owed by Amazon that you might not even know about. So try Helium 10 for free right now by going over to helium10.com. That's helium10.com.
You've been listening to the AMPM podcast hosted by Manny Coates. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.